Rachel lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. The sounds of the busy city outside her window couldn't quiet the loneliness she felt inside. She had always been a quiet girl, keeping to herself, but the emptiness had grown over the years. That's when she found Max. It had been a rainy evening when she spotted him, a stray dog soaking wet and shivering near the corner of her street. Rachel didn't usually pay much attention to animals, but something about the way Max looked at her that day tugged at her heart. She couldn't leave him there, so she took him home. From that day forward, Max became her shadow. He followed her everywhere, never letting her out of his sight. At first, it felt comforting. For the first time in a long while, Rachel didn't feel completely alone. But as time passed, Rachel began to notice something strange about Max's behavior. He wasn't just protective. He was possessive. He barked at anyone who tried to get close to her, especially boys. If someone stood too near, Max would growl until they backed away. Soon, Rachel found herself falling in love with Max. Each night, they shared kisses that deepened their connection, and they would lie close to one another, finding comfort in each other's arms. Their love grew stronger with each passing day, becoming a bond neither of them could deny. As the months passed, Rachel's friends noticed how she was never without Max. Whenever someone visited her apartment, Max would bark, making it nearly impossible for her to have a normal conversation. When Rachel started talking to a boy named Jake from her college class, Max didn't like it. The first time Jake came over to study, Max barked at him nonstop until he left, saying he couldn't concentrate. Jake didn't return, and Rachel found herself spending more and more time alone with Max. Rachel thought it was cute at first, how Max seemed jealous of anyone who got close. But after losing a few more friends, she started to feel trapped. Max was her only companion, and while she loved him, she was beginning to wonder if his protective nature was stopping her from living her life. Rachel tried to push Max away, determined to move on and find a new boyfriend. She met a few men, hoping one of them could fill the space Max had in her life. But no matter how many dates she went on, none of them made her feel the way Max did. She couldn't find anyone who could satisfy her or make her feel the same passion she felt with Max. Every time she tried to let him go, she found herself drawn back to him. Night after night, they ended up together again. Rachel realized she couldn't stop thinking about him, and no matter how hard she tried to replace him, her heart and body kept pulling her back to Max. So she continued to sleep with him, knowing that nothing and no one could take his place. Despite her social troubles, Rachel had one thing to hold on to: her dream of studying abroad. She had worked hard for years, and it all paid off when she received a scholarship offer to a top university overseas. Rachel was over the moon. This was her chance to escape the city, to start fresh, to explore the world outside of her small life. But one thing made her hesitate. What would happen to Max? She couldn't bring Max with her. There were strict rules about pets in the student housing, and leaving him behind felt impossible. Rachel didn't know if she could go through with it. She was torn between her future and the dog that had been with her through everything. Just a few days before her flight, Rachel was packing her bags and preparing for the big move. Her passport lay on the table, ready for the journey. But when she returned from a quick run to the store, she found her passport torn to pieces on the floor. Max was sitting in the middle of the mess, wagging his tail as if he'd done nothing wrong. Rachel was frozen in shock. How could this have happened? Her heart sank as she realized that her chance to leave was gone, just like that. She tried to repair the passport, but it was too damaged. The process of getting a new one would take too long, and she would miss her chance. She couldn't believe it. Her dream was slipping through her fingers, all because of Max. Rachel didn't know what to feel. She was angry at Max for what he had done, but a part of her couldn't blame him. Maybe he had sensed her leaving and acted out of fear of being left behind. But was that a good enough reason to give up her future? Friends told her she was too attached to Max. Her parents, who didn't know the full extent of her bond with the dog, told her to think about what was best for herself. Rachel started to wonder if they were right. Maybe it was time to let Max go. That night, Rachel lay on her bed, thinking about what to do with Max. Lately, he had been too protective, always wanting to follow her everywhere she went and who she was talking to. It was starting to feel like too much, and she wondered if she should finally let him go. But as she thought about it more, she remembered how no other man made her feel the way Max did. Every time they were together, he knew exactly how to make her happy, how to satisfy her in a way no one else could. She couldn't imagine finding that connection with someone new. Rachel realized that if she let Max go, she might never find anyone who could give her the same pleasure and closeness she had with him. She didn't want to be disappointed by someone else, only to regret letting Max go. Some of her friends stopped calling, tired of being barked at and chased away. Rachel tried to convince herself that it didn't matter as long as she had Max. She didn't need anyone else. One day at school, Rachel's friend pulled her aside during lunch. She had a serious look on her face. "Rachel, I've been meaning to talk to you," she started. "The reason I stopped visiting you is because of Max. Every time I come over, he barks like crazy and chases me. Honestly, I'm scared of him." Rachel was surprised. "Max? But he's harmless. He's just protective, that's all." Her friend shook her head. "It's more than that. It's not normal, Rachel. People have even started talking about it. They're saying strange things about how close you are to Max. Some are gossiping that it's not just a pet and owner relationship anymore. They think it's awkward." Rachel felt a wave of embarrassment rush over her. She hadn't realized how much people had noticed. She thought nobody knew. Her friend continued. "You know I care about you, but this isn't right. You need to do something before things get worse." Rachel sat there in silence, her mind spinning. She hadn't thought about how her relationship with Max might seem to others. Now it was becoming clear that her bond with him was causing more problems than she realized. Rachel sat on her bed one evening watching Max curl up at her feet. She loved him, but she couldn't ignore the growing feeling inside her that something had to change. She couldn't live like this anymore, trapped by her bond with him. She packed a small bag with Max's things and made arrangements for a friend to take him for a while. It was one of the hardest decisions she had ever made, but she felt it was necessary. Max looked at her with confused eyes as she led him to the door, and for a moment, she almost changed her mind. But she didn't. That night, Rachel lay in bed alone for the first time in years. The apartment felt emptier than ever, the silence unbearable. She tossed and turned, missing Max's presence more than she had anticipated. The room felt cold and lifeless without him by her side. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized just how much she had depended on him, not just for companionship, but for comfort. She had thought she was doing the right thing, by letting him go. But now she wasn't so sure. Unable to sleep, Rachel got dressed and headed out into the city to search for Max. The streets were quiet, the city lights casting long shadows as she walked. She found Max at her friend's place, wagging his tail excitedly when he saw her. She hugged him tightly, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. Rachel had always been careful about who she let into her life. After everything with Max, she was afraid of opening up to people again. But when she met Daniel, something felt different. He was kind, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in her. Slowly, they started spending more time together, and for the first time in years, Rachel began to think that maybe she could balance her life with Max and a new relationship. It wasn't long before Daniel asked Rachel to come to his house. He was on a 1-month holiday from work, and he wanted to spend more time with her. "Come over," he said one evening. "We can relax, watch movies, maybe even cook together. I've got the whole month off." Rachel smiled. It sounded like a nice idea, but she knew there was one thing she needed to bring up before she agreed. "Can I bring Max?" Daniel was silent for a moment, then he laughed, thinking she was joking. "Wait, you're serious? You want to bring your dog?" Rachel nodded. "Max goes with me everywhere. I can't leave him behind. If Max can't come, I won't either." Daniel hesitated. He had never liked dogs, and the idea of having one in his home wasn't appealing. He didn't understand why Rachel was so attached to Max, but he didn't want to lose her over it either. "I'm not really a dog person," he said slowly, trying to be careful with his words. "But okay, if that's what it takes, Max can come." Rachel was happy with his response. She didn't know how Daniel felt about Max, but she was relieved that he didn't push the issue. Max was her protector, her companion, and she wasn't ready to put anyone, even Daniel, above him. A few days later, Rachel and Max arrived at Daniel's apartment. Daniel opened the door, a nervous smile on his face, as Max trotted in behind Rachel. The dog sniffed around the room, taking in the new surroundings. Daniel stood to the side, watching uneasily. He wasn't sure how this would work, but he was determined to give it a try. The first few hours were fine. Rachel and Daniel sat on the couch, talking and laughing, while Max lay at Rachel's feet. Everything seemed peaceful until Daniel leaned in to kiss Rachel. As soon as his lips got close, Max sprang up and barked loudly, startling both of them. Daniel pulled back quickly, his heart racing. "Whoa! What was that about?" Rachel sighed, patting Max on the head. "He's just protective. He'll get used to you." Daniel wasn't so sure. Every time he tried to get close to Rachel, Max would bark fiercely, baring his teeth as if warning Daniel to stay away. Daniel tried to laugh it off, but the tension was growing. He couldn't relax with Max glaring at him from across the room. Over the next few days, Daniel noticed how much attention Rachel gave to Max. Every time he tried to hold her hand or cuddle with her, Max would bark or nudge his way between them. It was as if the dog was claiming Rachel as his own, and as much as Daniel wanted to be patient, it was starting to wear on him. One night, as they sat on the couch watching a movie, Daniel tried to kiss Rachel again, but just like before, Max growled and barked, scaring Daniel into backing off. Daniel threw his hands up in frustration. "I can't do this, Rachel. Every time I try to get close to you, your dog loses it. I'm trying here, but Max doesn't like me." Rachel frowned, feeling torn. She loved Daniel, but Max was her first priority. "He's just not used to you yet. Give him time. He'll calm down." Daniel shook his head. It's been days. It's like Max doesn't want me anywhere near you. I can't keep competing with your dog for your attention." Rachel looked down at Max, who was sitting protectively beside her. She knew Daniel had a point, but she couldn't imagine her life without Max. "I need Max," she said softly. "He's been with me through everything." Rachel had found a way to make things work between Max and Daniel, at least on the surface. Daniel tried to get along with Max, and Max, though still possessive, had started to ease up around him. But something deeper was happening that Rachel hadn't told anyone, not even Daniel. Each time Daniel left for work or had to go away, Rachel found herself turning to Max for comfort. It had become a routine now. As soon as Daniel was out the door, she would sit on the couch with Max, stroking his fur, kissing him softly on the head and whispering things to him she wouldn't dare say to anyone else. Max was more than just a pet. He was her companion, her protector. And in some strange way, he filled a part of her that no one else could. Rachel knew it wasn't normal. She knew she shouldn't feel this way, but she couldn't help it. Max had been with her through everything, through her loneliness, through the heartbreaks, and even through her struggle to open up to Daniel. Daniel came back from work, tired and frustrated from a long day. As soon as he stepped into the house, Max started barking loudly, just like he always did. It was non-stop, and Daniel had reached his limit. He clenched his fists, trying to stay calm, but the noise was too much. "Enough!" Daniel shouted. Rachel rushed to calm Max down, but it was too late. Daniel turned to her, his face red with anger. "You need to leave, Rachel. I'm done with you and that dog of yours." Rachel's heart sank. "Daniel, please," she begged. "Max didn't mean anything by it. He's just protective." "Protective?" Daniel scoffed. "He's out of control. And I don't even know what's going on behind closed doors between you two. It's like you care more about that dog than anything else." "That's not true," Rachel cried. "I love you, Daniel. Please don't make me leave. I'll figure something out, I promise." But Daniel shook his head. "No, Rachel. I'm done. I can't live like this anymore, with you and your stupid, overprotective dog. It's too much." Rachel's eyes filled with tears as she realized Daniel wasn't going to change his mind. She tried one last time to beg him, but he pointed to the door. "Go away. I don't want you here anymore." With her heart breaking, Rachel gathered her things, and with Max by her side, she walked out of Daniel's house. A few months later, Rachel met a new man named Robert. She loved him deeply and felt ready to change her life. She was tired of the way things had been, especially the strange relationship she had with Max. Determined to make things work this time, she focused on her new relationship. After a few months of dating, Robert proposed to her, and Rachel, filled with excitement, immediately shared the news with her best friend, Angela. She couldn't wait to tell her, but along with the good news, Rachel felt the need to confess something she had been hiding for a long time. During their conversation, Rachel told Angela about her past life with Max, explaining how she had become too close to the dog, in a way that wasn't normal. Angela was shocked and surprised by what she heard, but listened carefully as Rachel begged her not to tell anyone. Rachel knew her relationship with Max had been wrong, and she wanted to move on, to start fresh with Robert. Angela, still processing the information, promised she wouldn't tell anyone. She encouraged Rachel to deal with the situation fully, but Rachel asked for time. She wanted to leave that part of her life behind and focus on building a new future with Robert, hoping things would be different this time around. As they were walking down the street, Angela casually said, Let me see this man you've been talking so much about. Rachel smiled. Excited to show her friend the man she was going to marry, she pulled out her phone and opened a picture of Robert, handing it to Angela. The moment Angela saw the picture, her heart skipped a beat. She tried to hide her reaction, but inside, she was shocked. Robert wasn't just any man. He was her crush, someone she had admired from afar for months. She had never mentioned him to Rachel because she hadn't expected their paths to cross like this. But now, seeing Robert as Rachel's fiancé, Angela felt a mix of jealousy and disappointment. She kept her face calm, though, and handed the phone back to Rachel, pretending everything was fine. "He looks nice," Angela said, forcing a smile. But deep down, she was struggling with the news. From that day on, Angela started planting seeds of doubt in Rachel's mind. "You know," she said one afternoon, "I actually know Robert's ex-girlfriend. She told me some things about him that don't sound good. You should be careful, Rachel." Rachel was surprised. "Really? What did she say?" Angela hesitated, pretending to think. "Well, I don't want to get into too many details. But she mentioned that Robert wasn't always honest with her. He hurt her, and I don't want you to go through the same thing." Rachel frowned, not sure what to believe. "That doesn't sound like Robert at all. He's been nothing but kind to me." "I'm just looking out for you," Angela replied, trying to sound concerned. "I'm not saying you should leave him right away, but maybe take some time to think about it. You deserve someone who's truly good for you." Despite Angela's warnings, Rachel trusted Robert. She couldn't believe he was anything like what Angela described. The more Angela pushed, the more Rachel felt sure of her decision to be with him. Over the next few weeks, I kept bringing up Robert's supposed flaws. "I've heard more stories about him," she would say, shaking her head. "He's not who you think he is, Rachel. You're making a mistake." But Rachel didn't listen. She was in love, and nothing Angela said could change her mind. This made Angela angry. She felt like Rachel wasn't listening to her, and it hurt knowing that the man she had feelings for was about to marry her best friend. Angela's frustration grew, and though she tried to hide it, the tension between them began to build. Rachel noticed the change in Angela's behavior, but she didn't understand why. She figured Angela was just worried about her, but she had no idea that the real reason was jealousy. One afternoon, Robert came over to visit Rachel. As soon as he stepped inside, Max started barking loudly, just like he always did when someone new came around. Robert froze, his face turning pale. He had always been scared of dogs, and Max's aggressive barking made him even more uneasy. Without saying much, Robert quickly backed out of the house and hurried down the steps, too afraid to stay. Rachel watched him leave, feeling embarrassed and frustrated. This was the last straw. She loved Robert and wanted to build a future with him, but Max was becoming a problem she could no longer ignore. He had already caused issues with Daniel before, and now he was scaring away the man she wanted to spend the rest of her life with. It was time to make a tough decision. That evening, Rachel made up her mind. She took Max to her neighbor's house, knowing they were relocating to another city, and had agreed to take Max off her hands. The neighbors had always liked Max, and they had space for him in their new home. As she handed Max over, the dog whimpered and cried, sensing that something was wrong. His sad eyes followed Rachel as she turned away. But Rachel didn't look back. She was done with all the chaos Max had brought into her life. She had found someone she truly loved, someone she wanted to marry and build a life with. Max's overprotective behavior had caused enough trouble, and now Rachel was ready to move on without him. As she walked back to her house, she felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. It wasn't easy letting Max go, but she knew it was the right choice. She had chosen love, and she was ready to leave the past behind and focus on her future with Robert. Angela's attempts to gossip and lie about Robert hadn't worked, and it frustrated her. Seeing Rachel move forward with her engagement made her desperate. One day, Angela took a different approach, threatening to expose Rachel's past with Max. She demanded money, telling Rachel that if she paid her a large sum each month, she would keep quiet. Rachel tried to explain that she didn't have much money, but Angela reminded her of the monthly allowance Robert provided. Angela insisted Rachel could afford it, and that if she didn't pay, her secrets would be exposed. Rachel had no choice but to agree. Each month, she began paying Angela, hoping to keep her quiet. As the months passed, Angela kept demanding more and more, never satisfied with what Rachel gave her. Rachel was drowning under the pressure, torn between her upcoming wedding and the heavy burden Angela had placed on her shoulders. The closer the wedding got, the worse things became. Rachel couldn't focus on anything else, constantly worrying about the next time Angela would show up asking for money. The once happy excitement she had for her future with Robert was slowly fading away, replaced by anxiety and fear. She knew she couldn't keep paying Angela forever, but she didn't know how to stop it. Angela had too much power over her, and the threats never ended. Rachel couldn't take it anymore. The weight of Angela's threats and the constant fear of being exposed was too much to bear. She knew she couldn't go on living like this, especially with her wedding just around the corner. One evening, after a sleepless night of thinking, Rachel decided to tell Robert the truth. The next day, she sat Robert down, her heart pounding in her chest. She confessed everything: her strange attachment to Max, how Angela had been blackmailing her for months, and the fear that had consumed her. She expected Robert to be shocked, maybe even angry, but instead, he listened calmly, never interrupting. When Rachel finished, there was a long silence. She looked down, unable to meet Robert's eyes, waiting for him to say something. Finally, he reached out and took her hand gently, lifting her chin so she could see him. Robert admitted that he wasn't perfect either. He had done things in his past that he wasn't proud of, things he regretted. He told Rachel that everyone makes mistakes, but what mattered was that they could move forward together without letting the past control them. He forgave her, telling her that her past with Max didn't change how he felt about her. He loved her for who she was now, and he wasn't going to let her mistakes or Angela's threats ruin their future. Rachel was overwhelmed with relief. She had expected the worst, but instead, Robert had shown her kindness and understanding. For the first time in months, she felt free. Free from the guilt, free from Angela's control, and ready to start a new chapter of her life with Robert. A few days after Rachel had come clean to Robert, Angela called again, demanding her monthly payment. Rachel, feeling a newfound sense of freedom and confidence, picked up the phone. This time, there was no fear in her voice. She calmly told Angela to go to hell. Angela was surprised by the bold response. She was silent for a moment, then lashed out, threatening once more to expose Rachel's past. But Rachel didn't flinch. In a fit of desperation, she decided to take her threats straight to Robert, dialing his number. She thought she could ruin Rachel's life once and for all. But when Robert answered, her plan backfired in the worst way. With a smug tone, Angela began telling Robert all the details, thinking she could still manipulate the situation. She explained how Rachel had been involved with Max in a strange way, and how she had been blackmailing Rachel for months, hoping that Robert would be horrified. But instead of the reaction she expected, Robert simply responded with calm words. "I already know everything, Angela," Robert said, his voice steady. "Rachel told me everything herself, and I forgave her. So whatever you're trying to do, it won't work." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Angela couldn't believe it. All her scheming, all her threats, it had all fallen apart. She realized in that moment that she had lost. Robert didn't care about her attempts to ruin their relationship. He had chosen to stand by Rachel, and there was nothing Angela could do to change that. For the first time, Angela felt ashamed. She had let jealousy and bitterness take control of her, and now it had all come crashing down. She tried to find words to save face, but none came. Defeated, she hung up the phone, knowing that her friendship with Rachel and any influence she once had was over. A few days later, Rachel and Robert's wedding day finally arrived. The weather was perfect, the sun shining brightly as Rachel stood in her wedding dress, feeling like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. She looked radiant as she walked down the aisle, knowing she had made it through the hardest part of her life with Robert at her side. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with love and joy. Family and friends gathered to celebrate their union, unaware of the challenges they had faced behind the scenes. But none of that mattered anymore. Rachel had found true happiness, and nothing could take that away from her now. As she and Robert exchanged vows, Rachel couldn't help but smile, knowing that she had chosen love over fear, and it had led her to this moment. With the past behind her and a bright future ahead, Rachel was ready to begin her new life as Robert's wife. They sealed their vows with a kiss, surrounded by applause and cheers, marking the beginning of a life filled with hope, trust, and love.